Okay. Okay, so I guess the recording has started. Okay, so let's say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and go. So good everyone, good day, good morning, good evening. Wherever you're in the world, welcome to another Power BI section brought to you by UrBizEdge. For today's session, we're having transforming data in Microsoft Power Query. Our special guest is Prince Chukwuemeka. This session was brought to you by the collaboration between Enterprise DNA and also UrBizEdge. So we have a partnership with them. So for some of you that might be in United States and might be interested in taking Power BI training and also some Power Platform, you can reach out to Enterprise DNA. Their main focus basically is, or I'll say their motto actually. Their motto is basically empowering Power BI users to change the world with data. So I know they're into Power Apps, Power BI, some other interesting tools. Also Python for data analysis, which is also very amazing. And they also have some courses which they offer online. And also another announcement, we have a new sponsor, MHS Analytics. MHS Analytics is located in Canada. So for some of you that are based in Canada and are interested in taking data analysis training such as Excel, Power BI, financial modeling, Python, and SQL, you can reach out to MHX Analytics. So the main focus is basically they're committed to giving their clients the business intelligence edge by using tools they already have, such as tools like Excel, Power BI, Python, SQL, mostly all the data tools basically, and also into financial modeling, big data, and the rest. So if you're in Canada and you might be interested in taking trainings, you can also reach out to MHS Analytics. Okay, so UrBizEdge, the host now. We're registered Excel consulting, financial modeling, and also business intelligence, an enterprise solution firm in Nigeria. We specialize in helping companies and high-value professionals be on top of the business data. We're also the developer of some financial tools which you can find in the Microsoft Office store, such as the Nigerian Finance Market Analysis tool, which is available in the Microsoft Office store. We're also the developer of the Nigerian Stock Analysis dashboard and so many other tools which you can also find in the Microsoft Office store. Um, so our special guest, Prince. So Prince is a certified data analyst. That's Power BI certified data analyst, and also a certified trainer. That's MCT, Microsoft certified trainer. So that means he has the license to train us in Power BI products and Microsoft products in general. Um, he has developed a cutting-edge solution and trained various corporate clients on business intelligence. He's also a result-oriented individual with a penchant for positive challenge, also possesses strong ability to read and analyze data using Microsoft Excel and Power BI. He's also the lead of data analytics in Shango Payment Limited. So no further ado, I want over the session to Prince. So I'll stop sharing my screen and I'll go backstage. So Prince, over to you.
All right. Thank you so much for having me today. So, he has done justice to the introduction. My name is Prince Chukwuemeka. So, in today's section, our topic is transforming data in Power BI. Now, this is one of the major work we do in Power BI. If you're a Power BI user, you know that the bulk of your work is transforming data with Power Query. Now, there are many things you do in Power BI, which is getting data from different sources. We also do visualizing data, and also we use Power BI service to collaborate with our team members. So, like I mentioned, one of the major things, 99% of the times, let me not exaggerate, let's say 80% of the time, what you'll be doing in Power BI is transforming data. Because trust me, data does not come wholly, data does not come as smooth as you think it comes. And so we need to transform data. Now, if you are going to connect to any data source, we have data that I've prepared for this class. You would, before you transform data, you will need to connect to the source, right? So this is the data we are going to be working with today. So we're going to be working with this data, the sales data, the by dimension data, and we'll also look at the international sales data. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to get data and I'm going to connect to where my data source is. So my first data source is an Excel file. So I'm going to connect to this by dimension data. And no matter where you're connecting from, no matter where you're getting your data from, you would always want to select the tables you want and click on transform data. So transform data will take you directly to Power Query Editor, where you do your data cleaning and where we're doing our data cleaning. So from Power Query Editor also, you can get data from other sources by clicking on this new source. If you click on the drop down, you can get data from various sources. And another source I want to connect to is a text file, which is this sales data that we have on that folder. So I'm going to also say okay. So it's going to get us here. Now the last data we are going to be connecting to is this data in folder. Now the reason why I want to get it in folder is because how this data is structured is they're just the same thing but different location. So let's say, for example, we have businesses in Nigeria, Australia, to Mexico, right? And we have the same data structure. So what I want to do is connect to this folder. Instead of getting it one after the other, I can connect to the folder. So what happens here is Nigeria's information will fill, let's say, for example, this is Nigeria information. Nigeria information will fill. That's what I want to achieve down here. Then Australia will start from here. Then other countries I have on that folder will also fill, and that's what I want to achieve because they have the same data structure. So the reason why I'm repeating this is because if you're connecting to a folder, you must make sure that all the data in that folder have the same data structure. They have same data structure. So what I'm going to go now is to new source, and I'm going to click on more. Then I will click on folder and I'll click on connect. Now I can browse to where my folder is. Now I can do this simply. Let me show you. I can go to where my file is, right? I'll right click. I'm using Windows 11. If you're not using Windows 11, you might want to shift and right click. You would see copy as path. So if I copy this as a path, I can come to Power BI, paste this path here, and click OK. I'll be able to connect to that data source. Or I can browse to navigate to the place my data is and connect to it. So any which one works for me. But I think this is the best way. Then, since they have the same data structure, you would always want to combine and transform. So if you click combine and transform, you get your data in here as a folder. So this is the folder part, and this is my data. So if you look at this data now, you see that you have Australia. If you click here and load more, you see that it will load all the data that we have on this folder for different countries. So look at it. So for different countries. So this is a CSV file for different data in different countries. Okay. Now to why we are hosting this class, which is transform data. Now, there are various things you want to know before you want to transform your data. There are various things you want to have in the back of your mind prior to you doing any other transformation. The first thing is that we are always advised to make sure that our column name and our table names are easy to read. What I mean by easy to read is because if it is product, it should be product. If it is manufacturer, it should be manufacturer. If it is Joe, nobody knows what Joe is. Let's say geography for this instance. It should be geography instead of Joe and product table. Even your column names, your table names should be as explicit as possible. So we'll start from there. So the first thing you can do is you can right click here and you rename. Or you come to properties here and this out and click enter. This is awesome. Then for Joe, you want to change it to geography. So this is fine. For manufacturer, which is cool, well, then we can just do something like M. Then sales is fine. The international sales, I would want to add a space between international and sales, which is okay. So yeah, This is the first transformation I've done. Now, when transforming your data, note that every step you take will be recorded here. So there's no Control Z. You don't do Control Z in Power Query. So everything you have done is recorded here. So you can, if you are not pleased with any transformation you have done, you can delete and go back to do it again. Okay. So let's go. So the first thing we want to do is to go to view. If we go to view, we have what we call data preview feature in Power BI. So data preview feature in Power BI is one of the tools I love using. So the reason why I love using these tools is because it gives me an insight of how my data properties are. For example, we have column quality. So the information that column quality passes is, it shows me the percentage of valid data I have, the percentage of error I have in my columns, and the percentage of empty values I have in my columns. Now, why is this important? You should not move ahead to, let's say, visualize or close and apply to do anything in Power Query if your valid data is not 100%. Your valid data must be 100% before you would want to make sure you go ahead to close and apply. So for example, look at this column. This column is showing us that we have valid data to be 3%, while empty values are 77%. So column quality is one of the properties I use before I start transforming data. I want to check how valid my data in each column are. So 100% I move ahead. Okay, for column distribution help us to understand which column is likely to be used for creating relationship. Which column we can likely use when we want to create relationship. So it shows us the number of valid data we have, number of distinct data we have. Let me explain what distinct and valid means. Let me explain what it means. So let's say in a basket of fruits, we have mango, we have, let's say, apple, and we have this fruit. Now in this basket, we have 1 mango, 5 apples, and 3 oranges. Now the only fruit that is unique in this basket of fruit is mango. But when we say distinct, every fruit here is distinct. They are fruits, right? Yeah, but they are different kind of fruit. So when this is showing you 100 distinct, 1000 distinct values and 1000 unique values, it's absolutely correct. 1 is different from 2, 2 is different from 3. So the more distinct a column is, the more unique it should be. If the values here are different, they are unique also. They're unique also. So that's what column distribution does. Now we have another one we call column statistics. So column statistics, which is also called column profiling, help us to know the statistics of our column. So it goes beyond giving us what column quality, column distribution gives us, to give us the statistics of our column, like max, median, standard deviation, odd, and variety of things. Now the thing we need to note here is that column profiling or data preview feature is based on the top 1000 row. It's based on the top 1000 row. So if you want it, let's say your column is more than 1000 or your row is more than 1000, sorry, you can click here and say column profiling should be based on the entire data set. So the column profiling is based on the top 1000 row. And if you're not comfortable with that, you can increase it, or let's say your rows of data is more than 1000, you can increase it to profile for the entire data set. Okay, now let's do some cleaning. Now the first thing we would notice here is that the product column. You will notice that you have the product name and the segment of the product concatenated together, but they are separated with a line or a slash. Yeah. So for us to clean that out, what we can do is to use the split column function in the home tab of our Power Query, split column, or you go to add column. I'm going to use the two methods. So let me first start with the first method. So split column, you want to click on the drop down and say I want to split my column by using a delimiter, and I can specify the delimiter that I want. It's a custom delimiter. Since it's not a comma and it is not an equals to or semicolon or space or tab, I can say okay, it is a custom column, and I'll now give the custom, which is this, on your keyboard. You will see it on your keyboard. If you click OK, your tables are splitted. Now, I told you that if you're not comfortable with any transformation that you have done, you can just come here and clean it out. So that's the first way. Go to split column. The most popular is to split column by delimiter. Click on delimiter and you choose that it's a custom delimiter. You specify the delimiter and click OK, and that is splitted. Now the other way you can go around this is to go to add column and use column from example. Now the example you are getting is from the selection. So if you click on the selection, you can give your example. So if you're familiar with Excel and know how flash fill works, so this is exactly how flash fill works. So if you give your example, we say all season, that's what I want. Click enter, it's going to split it out, and you click OK. So you're going to have your column here. So you can label it segment, and you can come back and also split this one from selection, and you give your second split, which is a pass /01. Then you enter and click OK. So you have these two. So this is going to be product. You have these two columns splitted out. So that's how you split in Power BI. So since you have splitted the column into two, what you can do is right click here to remove this column. Okay, so that is the two methods we split. We do splitting in Power Query. Now the second transformation we can do here is this column. So if you look at this column, when we use column quality, it told us that we have 3% valid data, while 97 is no values and no values. So let's investigate why we have that much of no values. So if you look at this data, you see that we have mix up here. If you scroll down, we have rural, and we have urban and down. So let's guess that this guy, let me just say this, right? In your place of work, if you see no values, please don't assume that we are doing in this class. The reason why we are assuming is because this is just the dummy data we got from the internet. But in your place of work, you want to do what we call data validation. And one of the ways you validate data is to ask questions. Now, from my experience working, I've not seen null in my place of work. It's very hard for you to see null in your place of work. But if you see null, you would want to validate from the data engineer or the software engineers, depending on who is processing the data. Okay, so now let me explain what this person did. So what this person that filled his data did was, he did something like this. If you school in Nigeria, you see, let's say two persons are from the same family. So the class monitor will write Prince for the name of MYSQL, and you write my surname, which is Chukwuemeka. Let's say someone else is from my family is also in my class. So you will do something like this. Let's say Noble. So instead of writing Chukwuemeka again, he will just leave it empty, so that when you come, you know that okay, this person have the same surname. Then he'll continue Femi and then say, let's say Ajayi. So this signifies that this person is having the same surname as Prince Chukwuemeka. So what we can do is help this guy by using a function called fill down. So the fill down function is, I want to be able to fill mix till it gets to rural, then it stop, rural take over, fill till it gets to another rural, till it gets to urban. So I just want to fill down. So mix fill till it gets to this here, rural. It stops, rural fills over till it gets to urban, urban fills, just to continue that way. So that's what I want to do. So to do that, I can just right click and I will see fill here, and I can say fill down. Or I'll click on this column, go to transform. I will see the fill function here. If I click down, I would see fill down or up. So I want to use fill down. And I click on fill down, and you see my data is fine. Now, the other thing we need to also talk about is data type. So in Power Query, or in data analytics in general, we have two kind of table, or two kind of columns, sorry. So the first column is called a quantitative column, while the other one is called a categorical column. So what do we mean by quantitative and categorical column? So this is my definition. A categorical column is a column that we cannot sum, while a quantitative column are columns that we can do summation on them. Now, the reason why I define it this way is this. A column can be quantitative, can be numeric. Now, the definition that we have is that a numeric column, a quantitative column are numeric columns, while a categorical column are text columns. It might not be the case for every situation. That's why I defined it as a categorical columns are columns that we cannot sum, while a quantitative columns are columns that we can sum. A column can be a number, but you cannot sum it. A column can be a number, but you cannot sum it. Let's say, for example, ID. Employees ID and the rest of the IDs, any ID you have, you cannot say I want to find the total number of employees I have, and you want to say sum of employee ID. You only count it. Hence, you cannot run sum on it. It is regarded as a categorical column. I hope that is clear. So now, in Power Query, this is showing us data type as 1 to 3, but in the actual sense, we should change this to be a text. So all your IDs, all product ID, employee ID, when you're working with them in Power Query, it's best you change the data type to text because you can't sum them. Now, in a situation like this, where you have price, this is supposed to be a decimal, a fixed decimal, which is for currency. But if I turn this to a fixed decimal, it's going to show me an error. Now, the reason why it's showing me an error is because I need to split the USD from the actual number. So to do that, we can also use the split function, and if you want to split by space, you click here and you say space, and you can name this as price. We don't use USD actually, so you can just delete it, remove it, right click and remove, and you can rename this as this. So now if we go back to view and use the column quality, you find out that our table is now giving us 100%. So it's ready for analysis. So let me recap. We have done a couple of transformation. One is how to split our column. Two is how to identify different columns and what they mean. So something like this, ID2, the manufacturer ID2 should also be a text. Should be a text. Even though they are numeric, since hence you cannot run sum on them, it's going to be regarded as a categorical column. We have also learned how to use the fill down function. Now, let's go ahead. If you have any question, just drop it on the chat. I would see it, then I would just answer.
Should I read the questions?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So Akin Kumi said, will the data be made available for this training? He's
Okay.
asking about the data.
Yeah, I think you would answer that. Should I make the data available for you?
If you want to, it's fine. It's fine. If it's not sensitive data, then it's fine. So the second question is, if we select column profile on entire data set, does it affect the performance?
Yes, actually, it does.
Yeah.
It does affect the performance. It does affect the performance.
So I think that's all.
Sometimes. Huh?
No,
So
continue,
if you
continue.
if you click on column profiling based on the entire data set, right? It affects the performance, especially when you have a very large data. Before Power Query can go to, sometimes you can do it. Sometimes at my place of work, if I use column profiling and I want to see the percentage of valid data for the entire data set, right? It will keep rolling for a long time. So it actually does affect the performance of your query. You might not see it at the same time. You might not see it, you might not see it immediately. It might take a couple of times, which will actually slow down the performance of your data. Okay, do you have any other question?
None for now. None for now.
All right. So let's go over to the next table here, which is the geography table. So the geography table, the first thing you should notice if you open this data is that the top two rows are not important to us. They're not important to us. And the reason why they are not important to us is because they don't contain valid information. So we can actually we can afford to remove those columns because they are not important to us. Now we have remove role function in Power Query. And there are a couple of ways we can remove roles. We can remove top, bottom, alternate, duplicate, blank rows, rows with error. Actually remove them. But there is one I would want us to look at, is to remove alternate rows. So the most one that is not popular is how to remove alternate rows. I just want to show us how to remove alternate rows. Now how we use it is this. Let's say for example we want to remove row 2. We have 3 questions here. We want to remove the first row to remove. I want to remove row 2. And it's asking us for the number of rows. After once I've removed row 2, how many other number of rows do you want to remove? I just want to remove only that row. I say 0. Then the number of rows I want to keep. Now we have 9,999 plus rows of data. So this is what I tell people. Exaggerate. Right? Exaggerate. So just say 10,000. Just say I want to keep 10,000 rows. I might not have the accurate number of rows I have here, but just to be in a safer side, I can say keep 10,000 or 100,000 rows. It does not affect. It does not add more rows to you. So if I click OK, only one row is removed. Now, this is important when you want to remove one row. Sometimes you may be working with data. As we know, on no occasion should you have total, subtotal in your data. You should not have those in your data. Total, subtotal in your data. You should not have it. So let's say, for example, you just bring in data. Let's say somebody have done pivot table on the data. You just brought it in and you want to remove only that row that have total. So you can use the alternate row to remove only that row. I think this did not work. Let me see where I made a mistake. All right, let's try it again. Yeah, so I want to remove row 2. It's only that row I want to remove. Sorry, it's supposed to be 1. That row. Then I keep 10,000 rows. Then I click OK. Row 2 should be out. Row 2 is out. So that's how you use alternate row. Besides that, removing top and bottom rows are popular. So I want to remove top row and I can just specify the number of rows I want to remove from the top because it's not important to us. And we click OK. That one row is removed. Now we can afford to use first row as header to promote our header and also change the data type of those columns that should be categorical columns like zip and the rest of it. Now, there's another thing I want to also talk about. Another thing I want to talk about is how to concatenate, right? You want to concatenate 2 rows, 2 columns. Let's say, for example, you have name, first name and second name, and you want to concatenate together. You want to concatenate 2 of them together. I'm using Excel terms now. Okay, you want to join 2 of them together. You can actually do that. So in Power Query, if you go to add column, you would see you want to click on the first column you want to concatenate with the other and click on the second one. Then you have merge column here. So if I click on merge column, this is prompted out and it asks me what do I want to use to merge my column. I can use comma. I want comma to separate my first word from my second word. Then I click OK. My 2 columns are concatenated together. Now this is important. I don't like using first name and second name differently whenever I'm analyzing data. So in databases, you would definitely see maybe first name in a separate column, last name in a separate column. I don't really like to use 2 of them. They're just repetition of the same thing. So what I majorly do is I concatenate those 2 columns together and separate it with either space, which is I think space work. So you just make sure you are clicking on the 2 columns. You see merge columns, and I can see I want to use space to concatenate them. So my first name space, last name. So I would have something like this. I can just rename it as name, anything I want to use. It's not a best practice. It's just me personally. I don't like having first name, second name, first name or last name in separate columns. It's just the same thing. If I want to talk about the customer, it's just the same, absolutely the same. Okay, so we are done with the geography table. So if you go to the manufacturer table, there are quite a number of things we need to talk about in the manufacturer table. But the first thing we need to do here is to investigate our table. And if you look at the bottom 3 from row 4 to row 6, you see that across different columns, it does not have valid information. So we can afford to go back to home and use remove bottom rows, specify that I want to remove, and click OK. So bottom 3 rows are removed. Now there are three concepts that we need to talk about. One is pivot. One is on pivot, sorry. The other one is pivot, and the other one is transpose. Now, for on pivot, means turning row values to column. You have row values. You have your row values. You want to turn them to become column values. You can do on pivot. And pivot means turning column values into row. Let's say, for example, these are column values. If I do pivot in Power BI, look at one, take them and turn them to row values. See, they're now row values. If I'm doing on pivot, I'm saying take these guys, turn them to column values. See how they are faced now. Whereas transpose is just can go either way. Transpose can go either way. It can go from column to row and row to column. Any way you want it, transpose will go. So in this example we have here, we're going to do transpose. So we can just come here and hit transpose and use first row as header, and our table is fine. Okay. Do I have a question on this? Let me see if I have any data for explaining pivoting and non-pivoting. So let me go to my.
Okay, someone is saying that there is gray on the city and region. Why didn't you clean it?
On the region.
You said there's gray. No, it's clean. I feel it meant that the column profiles, but like the entire green is not.
Okay.
Okay, let me just make it a speaker. It's clean actually. So let me make him a speaker so you can ask his question.
Yeah.
That's Anna, right? Anna. So Anna, you
Okay.
can speak now.
Hello, good evening.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good
Good.
evening.
Well done, Prince. Like you taught us the column quality. So for
Yeah.
this city and region,
Mm.
there's still 2% empty rows and 6% empty. So I was
Okay.
wondering, like, yeah, you can see that blank. So I was wondering
Yeah.
why we didn't clean it. So that's my
Okay.
question. We have null here as well.
Okay. Thank you
So
so much.
that's
Thank you.
that's what I'm asking.
Yeah. Thank you. I didn't pay attention to it. Okay. Let's talk about it. So one of the ways we deal with null values, if we don't ask questions, if we don't do data validation, right? If you don't do your data validation, let's say for example, in this kind of data that we don't have anybody to validate from, but in your place of work, please ask questions. Please don't go ahead and do anything. Ask questions. So in this kind of situation where you don't have anybody to ask question, you should not leave your data as null or blank. We have null here. So one of the ways we deal with null now, people that are aspiring data scientists would not agree with me. All of them will shout now. But please go back to Python and do your thing. But for now, for data analytics, how we deal with null is you want to make sure you understand the column that the null appears. So have if you have null in a numeric field, you would want to always replace that null with 0. Now, for people that are doing Python, we say why, and they will say, what if you want to do mean or median? Please, that is for them. But for data analysts, for us working with Power BI, you don't need to bother about it, except say you're doing the kind of analysis that would require you to know the mean or median number of your values. So you can, definitely ask question or just replace it with whatever you need. But for data analytics or clean data in Power Query, the best thing to do when you have null is to understand the column that it appears. If it's a numeric column, you replace it with 0. If it's a text column, you replace null with NA, which is not available. It is not advisable to unclick null. Now, why it's not advisable is that, let's say null is in this column, right? Null is in this column, in this row. And these guys here have better information. Let's say you are dealing with a data where date of birth of or age of a particular segment you are trying to analyze is not compulsory. Where they fill in the data, it's not compulsory that you put in your date. When you are filling some form online, there are some categories that are optional. And this person decided not to fill his details for his age or from other reasons, but you have valid information in other columns, right? You don't need to, if you remove that null, you are excluding the person from the analysis. Because if you remove null here, it's going to affect the role. It's going to affect any role. If I remove null in this role, it's going to affect the entire role here. Anywhere on filter null is going to affect the entire role. So that is why we always advise that you don't uncheck null, except in a situation where the value you have across the rows are not relevant. When the values you have across the rows are not relevant, it's just best you remove it, you unclick it. But if it's relevant, please just replace null. And replacing of null, you must understand that Power Query is case sensitive, and I'm going to replace null with NA. So if I type this null in capital letter, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. I'm still going to see the null because there's no capital letter null here. So Power Query is case sensitive. So you just want to type in the null the same way it appears, and I replace it with NA. And this is out. In this situation where we have blank, so what you want to do is, if you click on replace value, value to find, you leave it empty, and value to replace, you say NA, and you click OK. And this is done. So if you use, you see that you have 100% valid data across your fields. Okay. So I've also talked about transposing our data. So let's see if we can talk about two more things. I think our sales data is fine. Then let's talk about the international sales. We don't need this source name. Now, Power Query or Power BI in general, we are really conscious, whenever we are working with data, we are really conscious of performance. I'm just speaking because of this role I removed. We are always speaking, we are always concerned about performance. So dormant and rows you know that you're not going to be using, rows that you know that is not going to be important to you, please just remove it. Something like this is not going to be important for our analysis. You can just remove this guy. And we can turn these IDs to the proper data type. They should be zip code too. It should also be the text. And yeah, fine. So another concept I also want to talk about is merge and append. Merge and append. Now, when we say we want to merge data, we mean we want to add column to our data. So let me use a cell to explain this. So let's say, for example, I have two data sets. Let's say location. So I have friends, I have family. Guys are coming from different locations. And let's say UK, US. And let's say we also have this information in another separate table. There's an additional table here, which is, let's say we don't have location there. Let's say we have city. Let's say we have month. We have January. Right. Let's say we have these two tables. These two tables are the same thing, but they have different information in different places. They have information in different places. Now, it's either this table is completing this table, or this table is completing this table by adding a column. So when you are doing merge, you know that I'm completing a table by adding a column, by taking this column and adding it here. Now, for a mesh to hold, you must have a common column between the two tables, which is name here. The common column we have here is name. So anytime I'm merging, this is what should be in my mind, that if I'm merging, I'm adding column adding a column to my data, adding a column to my data. A moving column. And there must be a common column. Now in data analytics, let's go back. Best practice. If a table is mergeable, you can use it, you can create relationship with it. So we always advise people that you don't merge, avoid merging, avoid merging, avoid merging. If you say mergeable, you have a common column that you can use to create relationship between these two things. If you have a common column that you can use to merge, you can use it to create relationship in Power BI always. So this is what merge means. The concept of merge is that I'm going to add a column to complete the table. And the other one, which is to append, append means adding row. And one funny thing about append is this. In append, from the first table and the second table must be the same. From the first table and the second table must be the same. So what is different now is that one of the table have further information. Let's say this table have rows of information that should complete this table. Let's say it has, let's just pretend that this is then another value, and we'll have location today and the month. So when we say append, look at what happened. This comes here, fill in this space. So we are completing the table by adding a row to it. Now let's do it. So if you look at the table here, you see it has from product ID to quantity. The only thing that international sales have that the sales table does not have is country. Now, if we this query, let's append it. We have two options, but let's append query. So let's append international sales. Let's see what happens. So this is what happens. We append country, but it is returning it as null. It returns it as null. Always will be there, but returning this as null. Let me show you how. Let me show you what happened on the backend. So this null means that when it is filling, it did not find, let's say for example, it did not find it. So when it's filling, it will feel something like this. And this guy, since it did not find anything, it returned the column header, country. Since it did not define anything, return null. It will return empty, call it empty, but in Power BI, it will return null. So this is what happened on the backend. So since we're adding row, remember when we're appending, we're adding row. Since we're adding row, it goes to the table and goes to append the rows from this table to this table. And since it did not find any external column, it's still bringing the columns that it has, but it did not return anything for the first table. The first code, that column would just have null till it gets to where these values are appended to it. I hope it makes sense. Now let's have. So let me use one function, which is conditional column. Now I'm going to use a conditional column to create another country value for me. So I'm going to say if the country value, if the country column in this table equals null, null is smaller. Instead of you to give me, change that null to USA. You can use replace value and change it to USA. Else, I'm going to select the column. If it did not see null, return the value you have in the country column. You know, those information you have that you appended to it. But if you see null, please replace it with, let me do country one. So if you see null, please replace it with USA. If I click OK, I'm going to have my nulls replaced with USA. Please change this guy to the best data that it is text. Now, if I click here, I've added an extra country for this data set. It's not advisable, but I just wanted to teach us how. So now I have external, all the nulls in this column are replaced as USA and order of my countries are returned. So now I can now remove this. I can now remove this. Now after appending, I want to rename this as country, not control. So after appending, before you close and apply, please, the table you appended, know that the information you have been appended to this thing. So you don't need this table in Power BI. So what you want to do is right click and disable it from loading. So now if we close and apply, the tables we see is product, geography, manufacturer, sales. This guy will have disabled it from loading because we have appended his information to the sales table. Now let me quickly talk about merge. Let me talk about merge. I want to talk about pivoting and pivoting, but we don't have much time. So let's talk about merge. So okay, this is not the table. Sorry. So for merge, let me see if it's a CSV file. What did I choose before? It's supposed to be this guy. Yeah, so this is merge. I want to use one of my table here and teach merge. So for merge, like I've mentioned, for merge, we're adding columns. So if you look at this table, I'm going to use first row as header for our lookup table. So if you look at our lookup table, we have city, state, and region. If you look at our data table, we have customer name, segments, city, sales, quantity, discount, profits, and yeah, discount and profit. But we do not have state and region. We do not have state and region in this table. We have city, but we don't have state and region. So we can use the city column to append this guy. Now in your place of work, let me just see, and I need to talk about it. In your place of work, please always append or merge query as new. Always. I just did this so that I can use it to show us how to use conditional column. Always append query as new. So the reason why we always tell you to append query or merge query as new is this. If the new appended query, if I merge query as new, I'm going to add a new table here that contains information of my data table and my lookup table. If that merged query, right, have an issue in the future, I can delete it and still have more original tables here. So this one I did here now. If this table have an issue in the future, the only thing that can save me is to delete this guy and reconnect to this data source again. So let's say you're connecting to an Azure that it's not as simple as connecting to a Excel file. It's going to tell on you. It's going to delay your work or something like that. So that's what we always ask you to always make as new. So now I'm going to do append as new, and I'm going to append a lookup table to access table by clicking on the common columns that they have, which is the city. Now, this is really what I want to talk about. This is here the kind of join or have left join. If you're familiar with SQL, you would understand this guy. But let me just try to explain it. Now, whenever you are merging, the first table that appears here is the left table. Let it be on your head. The first table that appears here is the left table, while the table that appears here is the right table. So when you are saying left outer join or left outer merge, you are saying this table here should go here and filter. So it goes here, look for the cities that matches with the city you have here, and return the value. If it did not see, if it goes to this, if this city here goes to this table and see 5 cities, in this case it has 23 cities, and those 23 cities from the left table merges with the 23 cities in the right table. Now let me show you something. So if I go to this city now and replace this Chicago, let's replace this Chicago. I'm replacing Chicago with France. Right? If I come here now to merge, it will tell me that look up table. I'm merging with data table. Let me use lookup table as my left table, and my right table is going to be the data table. So if I click OK, look at what happened. I think I've done the worst thing, which is append. Sorry, guys. Okay, so what I want to do here is merge, and I'm merging it to the lookup table, and I'm merging by the city. So now look at it. It's saying that what I have here, what I can find in the left table is 22 value that matches with the 23. What I have in this table is 23 rows of data. But out of these 23 rows of data in the right table, 22 from the left table can only merge. That means it's going to return null, or it removes it absolutely. The row that does not match with the value we have on the right table. Same thing applies for the right outer. You see, 13 from this table did not see anything in this table to merge it with. And full outer means both tables should just merge. So this guy can only find 22 values that he can merge with the right table, and this guy can only find 13 values he can merge with the left table. And inner join too is just only matching columns. It's just the same thing with so in the case where full outer will return null, inner will not return null. So all those ones that do not find any match, it will just leave it out. It will just throw it. So I've removed that, and I want to merge again. That's new. So now I can merge with lookup table, city here. Now, since you have merged this information onto, please remember to always right click to disable this guy from loading. So why you want to disable it from loading is because you don't want to have same tables having the same information. So you can now load this. So I can now rename this table and say, let's say data. So now if I close and apply, those tables that I disable from loading will not be present in Power BI. Okay. So yeah, that's what I have for us in preparing of data. So in preparing of data, in your place of work, it will not pass dealing with null values, replacing values, conditional formatting. Conditional formatting, there are a lot of things you can do with conditional formatting. Let's say you want to use conditional formatting to segment your customers. I want to talk about it. You can use conditional formatting to segment your customer. Say if this person sells this range equals to or greater than this range, it should be regarded as this, and therefore, and so forth. You can just check it out. And we'll talk about pivoting, transpose, talk about merge, and append. Yeah, there are a lot of things you can do in Power Query, but just know that 99% of the things you'll be doing in Power Query, you'll be clicking on the button. And also, I forgot to mention, the language that Power Query uses is called M language. You don't really need to learn it, right? But you don't really need to learn it. M language, you don't really need to learn it. Just know that 99% of the things you'll be required to do in Power Query, you'll be clicking on a button. So thank you so much, guys, and yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, well, that was a lot. And I think you finished right on time. That was really interesting. So are there any question? Yeah, the recording will be made available. The recording will be made available. I think I dropped it earlier today. I'll just drop it again in the chat. The recording will be made available. Okay. I don't think there's any other question. Or Prince, do you think, since you've been here before, you know the last two questions, right? How you started your old data journey, and also what advice about people just starting out in the data field?
Okay, before I do that, let me just answer this question. Somebody says, what is the reason to avoid merging? So the reason why you want to avoid merging is that you don't want to have a table that have plenty of information. You know?
Yeah.
Instead of having plenty of information, better you create relationship. You know, it's just better. It just helps in performance and helping.
Yeah.
It just performance. That's just it. All right. That's why you need to avoid. Okay, the two questions, right? How did I start my data journey? Okay, let's start this way. I started in 2021, and that was after my NYC. After I stopped in NYC, and I wanted to get into tech, and I think I just fell in love with data analytics, and I get into it, and it was really interesting. Still interesting now, and is really easy. I think I always tell this testimony. I did not study anything relating to tech. I did not study computer engineering or anything. I just get into tech, fell in love with it, and I learned a lot in the space of 3 months that I got my first job. So if you're like looking to break into tech, just learn, and you can get your job in 3 months. You can get your job in 2 months. You just have to put in much information, much, let's say, work in it. It's a whole lot of work. Power BI, Excel, SQL. It's a whole lot of work. You just need to be passionate about it, and 2 months. Make sure you build your portfolio. You can use LinkedIn and save your portfolios, your SQL queries, your Power BI visualization. Put it in this LinkedIn. That is very important because no job you go. I think I was having an interview last week. Somebody wanted to join my team. That was the thing. It was good when we asked him questions. He was answering. But what have you done? Bros, what have you done? You could not present anything. So the most important thing in this field is to show people what you have done over a period of time. So just be passionate about it, build your portfolio, and yeah, you are good to go.
Awesome. So I would say portfolio matter. So portfolio is more like a digital footprint. So it speaks for you when you're not there. So even what got me my job currently was actually my portfolio. So I'll say everyone try building a portfolio is very important, very important. And Prince, I would say thank you so very much. At least you're honored our invitation again for the second time in a row. So thank you so much. And for everyone, I'll say do have a lovely week ahead. So I've dropped the link on the chat box for the recording. So the recording we made tomorrow morning. So you can watch the recording and also someone asked for the data. So Prince, will the data be made available also?
Yeah, you can just drop your email address on our chat on LinkedIn. I will send you.
Okay, maybe you can put it on a Google Drive or something. I'll just put it on during the upload
Yeah,
and
do that.
everything. Okay, it's fine. So everyone, I'll say do have a lovely week ahead. Bye, guys. I'll stop the recording right about now.
Yeah, bye, bro.